Good afternoon to all of you. It falls upon me to welcome you to this service of celebration for the life of Sidney S. Whelan, Jr., or Sid, as most of us knew him. I welcome you today with a divided heart. Divided because even though some months have elapsed, saying goodbye as we are doing today is a hard thing. That's one side of this division. The other side is this: there was such wisdom and joy and love in Sid's life, which is something that we can and that we shall celebrate. And so as we begin, let us commit to allowing ourselves to feel whatever it is we need to feel. Sadness at saying goodbye on one hand, celebration for Sid's life on the other, trusting that it all belongs within the tapestry of memory and honor and indeed reverence that we are weaving today for Sid Whelan. By way of invocation, I'd like to offer a few lines from a well-known poem by Wendell Berry, a poem called The Mad Farmer Liberation Front. I invite you to hear these words as if they were instructions that Sid had once heard, instructions that perhaps he is now offering to each and every one of us. Here are some of Berry's words. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance for what man has not encountered. He has not yet destroyed. Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in the millennium. Plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant, that you will not live to harvest. Say that the leaves are harvested when they have rotted into the mold. Call that prophet. Prophesy such returns. Put your faith in the 2 inches of humus that will build under the trees every 1,000 years. Expect the end of the world. Laugh. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. Friends, it is that final line most of all that calls Sid Whelan to mind for me. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. Far more than many, Sid had considered the facts, and he managed, so far as I could tell, to remain joyful. That was certainly true of his cancer diagnosis. He knew what it meant. But every time I saw him, he seemed almost amused at how well he felt and of how he just kept on going. Berry's lines ring true to Sid's commitment to ecology and his efforts at conservation. He knew what the science now says. He even advised me once to move this church to higher ground, given that we are surrounded by water and that the water is likely to rise. I haven't figured out how to move it yet. Time may yet prove Sid right, but he never lost the twinkle in his eye or the sense of play that he somehow radiated. Other lines from Berry stick too. For example, Sid knew how to read spreadsheets, and he understood the world of investments. But he had a different understanding of profits, and he prophesied different sorts of returns. He did so here in our community at FCCOL by helping to lead us to divest from fossil fuels, and by helping us to imagine solar arrays placed upon our church. I think Sid remained joyful precisely because he was investing in the millennium, precisely because he was busy planting sequoias of the spirit and of the heart. He did so in his love for children, in his stewardship of resources and of the planet, in his dedication to specific places like the Adirondacks and like southeastern Connecticut, and through his immense generosity of time, of knowledge, of emotion. Sid Whelan was joyful, though he had considered all the facts. Friends, I would submit to you that that is the central task of all of our lives, to be sober in our assessment of what is, and yet to remain steadfast and true, joyful, despite what may be. I have one final thing to say here at the beginning, something I repeat often on these occasions. We are quite obviously in a church, and we are here and there going to use the language of religion to give thanks for Sid's life. Occasions like this bring together those who are comfortable speaking the language of religion and those for whom that language can feel strange. I know this. We get that around here. Religion is but one of several languages that we have for accessing the depths of the human story, for accessing the mysteries of this world. But it's not the only language. There is the language of music, of literature, and of art. There is the language, if such it is, of communion with the natural world, and there is the language of relationship. These are all idioms that Sid spoke. What I'm saying to all of you is that however you organize the world, however you access those depths and those mysteries, I hope that this celebration of Sid's life will invite you further into the mystery. Above all, what I hope is that as a result of what we do here today, you'll reach out to those in your life that you are privileged to sojourn with, and that you'll simply say to them, I love you, and I care about you, and I'm so glad you are in my life. Let's all remember to say those things today in honor of Sid Whelan. Would you pray with me? Eternal God, we give thanks to you for the life of Sid Whelan. We trust that you have been with him throughout the course of his life, a steady and sure foundation through the joys, but also through the sorrows and difficulties as well. We trust that in some way we can scarcely understand, you are with him still. Something of Sid resides within each of us gathered here. His life is now a part of ours. Help us to nurture those pieces of ourselves where he still lives, in his generosity, in his wisdom, in his appreciation for human endeavor and for the human spirit that guides such endeavors, in his awe at the natural world. Even as we seek to keep those important parts of Sid alive, we ask that you would be with Patsy and with Tansy and Laura and Sid. We ask that you would be with Laura Faye and Genevieve and Gabrielle. Be with Sid's entire extended family and with all those gathered here. Teach us, O God, to plant sequoias. Teach us to remain joyful, though we know the facts. Teach us to laugh, for laughter, as Sid knew, is immeasurable. In these and other ways, teach us to be more human and thus more humane, that we may carry Sid Whelan forth into the world. Amen. I'd like to invite you now to join me in singing hymn number 407, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Let's all rise if we're able. Be seated.
First of all, that was beautiful. Thank you. It's hard, though, because you got me crying before I'm supposed to speak, and that's not fair. So I'm Tansy Whelan, lucky to call Dad Dad, and I want to thank you all for being here with us today to celebrate his life. So we miss our father, grandfather, husband, cousin, uncle, and best friend to many. We miss his generosity with his enthusiasm, his wonder, his joy, his kindness, and his love. He was both profoundly present for us at all times and supportive of our independence. He was proud of all we have accomplished, and by we, I mean not only his family, but his friends' children, his coworkers, fellow board members, and his partners in the business of making the world a better place. He gave us all insight into what it means to be deeply loyal to friends and family, to humanity, and to nature. In fact, he belonged not only to us, but an extended family of godchildren, friends' children, nieces, and nephews. And I thought that I would share a few of the beautiful notes that you sent about Dad's passing. So first, a few quotes from his extended family, because so many people call him uncle, some legitimately so. So let me share a few of those. Hearing him referred to as Great Uncle Sidney always made me smile. To me, that had nothing to do with his generation and everything to do with him being Sidney the Great. Love that. He was kind, gentle, passionate, intelligent, thoughtful, and brave. So many of us looked up to him and the very full life he lived. Another, your dad was very much an uncle figure for my fathers and I. So many great memories with him. And another, as a long ago, quote, nephew, I'm especially sad for you and your family as he has impressed me as one of the irreplaceables. Another one, he was my hero growing up and has continued to be a model. And then finally, from this extended family, it hurt my heart to receive the news. Uncle Sid was a big part of my life. He shaped my childhood, and his influence on me continues to this day. He was such a good human. He was truly my dad's best friend. He was the one friend who stood by my parents as they aged and faced their medical challenges. Uncle Sid was there for the good, the messy, and the hard times. And here are some other quotes about his special qualities. He was a class act, a gentleman of the old New York mold. He was curious, kind, thoughtful, extraordinarily present, and had such a sparkle in his eye. His effervescence, spirit of adventure, beautiful, loving self, intelligent, and wit were a few of his best qualities. I shall miss him terribly. These are all like quotes. He had such a strong, positive, and empathetic spirit. He decided every step bravely with open eyes, incredible strength, and determination without complaining, maybe once in a while to Patsy. That was from me, not the quote. He was kind, gentle, curious, passionate, and of course brave. What a life to celebrate. We can honor his legacy of being loving as he was. And a few words about how important it was to him to lead a life with purpose. These are also some additional quotes. I'm comforted, as you are to a much greater extent, by the memory of all the good in his long life, from wife and family to friends to Adirondack adventures and many civic activities and joy in nature. Sid will forever be in my memory. This is another one, so I'm sort of, hopefully you know, I'm going bit by bit. Will forever be in my memory as one of the most inspirational and admirable individuals I've had the pleasure to meet and know. I consider it an honor to have known him. He will forever live on at Bluff Point in our cabin, which he created and built. This is in the Adirondacks. There we have several pictures of him, including his cast iron pan, which was used quite a lot for trout. Writings and drawings that they will cherish. And then a couple more. Your dad is embedded in so many precious memories for me of the Adirondacks of Vermont. His spirit will live on in all of us lucky enough to share time with him. He was so proud of his kids and grandchildren. Every visit over the last decade was full of an update as to what you were each up to and how interesting and impressive he found your work and lives. It was a remarkable life, stretching over so much time and so many relationships. I'm honored to have been a small part of it. What a human being he was. I can only recall him with a smile on his face. We were colleagues for many years, and he embodied all that I admired and loved about my place of work. My heart is heavy, yet I'm also so grateful. What a life of purpose he led, and what joy, light, and love he spread. And then finally, he will be remembered by many for his gifts of wisdom, thoughtfulness, and kindness, and of course his entertaining stories. Even if you heard them 5 times, they were great. May we now carry on that legacy with our loving stories of him. All right, now it's going back to me, because I don't want to steal anybody's words. I don't have any quotes on boats. That was okay, guys. Nobody sent me a quote on a boat. That was upsetting. So I can't continue this without mentioning Dad's love, not always rational, of small wooden craft. Our brother Sid came up with a great send-off for him. His ashes are in a model Adirondack guide boat. And I like to envision it that he's rowing around the family plot, saying hello to all the relatives, the grandparents, everybody else, his dog Jerry, from when he was a kid. Dad loved nature, as we heard, and caring for the land imbued us with that love as well. A friend shared this poem with me, and I thought I would end with it. It's called Remember by Joy Harjo, member of the Muskogee Creek Nation and former poet laureate. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon, know who she was. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. Your evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their own tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Dad was brilliant at talking to the animals. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember you are all people, and all people are you. Remember you are this universe, and this universe is you. Remember all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember language comes from this. Remember the dance language that life is. Remember. We love you, Dad. Thank you.
I've chosen a Faruka to open this part. A Faruka is a solo man That was wonderful. Dad would have absolutely adored that. Thank you. So I'm Laura Whelan, the middle one. And I can't tell you how nice it is to see all of you here. That's a real gift that Dad would just love. Thank you. Patsy asked if I would read a poem. She and Dad planned a lot of this ahead of time, very smart. And so I had some good time to think about it. And of course I thought about, well, there's a poem out there probably about fishing and about boating, but there's some really bad poems about fishing and boating. So I gave up on that idea. And I thought, well, what are some of Dad's core characteristics that we carry with us today? And in his heart, I think he was such a learner. He loved learning. He loved sharing of learning, whether it was from him out to you or from you back to him. And so that's, to me, the best kind of teacher in the world. So I found this poem by a contemporary poet, Brad Aaron Maudlin, with the somewhat ungainly title of What You Missed That Day You Were Absent from 4th Grade. Mrs. Nelson explained how to stand still and listen to the wind, how to find meaning in pumping gas, how peeling potatoes can be a form of prayer. She took questions on how not to feel lost in the dark. After lunch, she distributed worksheets that covered ways to remember your grandfather's voice. Then the class discussed falling asleep without feeling you had forgotten to do something else, something important, and how to believe the house you wake in is your home. This prompted Mrs. Nelson to draw a chalkboard diagram detailing how to chant the Psalms during cigarette breaks, and how not to squirm for sound when your own thoughts are all you hear. Also, that you have enough. The English lesson was that I am is a complete sentence. And just before the afternoon bell, she made the math equation look easy, the one that proves that hundreds of questions and feeling cold, and all those nights spent looking for whatever it was you lost, and one person add up to something. Thank you.
And with all my heart, I turn around and tell the boys that we're homeward bound.
And it's one more day on the gray funnel line, and it's one more day on the gray funnel line. I'll pass the time like summer sheen until the water turns to green, and I'll dance on down that walk ashore and sail the gray line no more, and sail the gray line no more.
So I am not John Fritzinger. John caught COVID this week and decided he wouldn't share it with us. So he's staying home. And so Patsy asked me to read what John had written, which I'm very happy to do. John is he in his remarks, he calls himself a new friend, but to me, he's an old friend of Patsy and Dad's. I'm Sidney Whelan, as most of you know, the younger. Just real quick, I want to do a very dad thing and say thank you to Ron, to Simon, to Reverend Stephen, and to Reverend Carlene. So, and there are also people whose names are not on the program who we're not seeing who clean the place, and they're the kind of people that Dad would have said thank you to at some point as well. So thank you to them as well. All right. So here is from John. Hello, my name is John Fritzinger, and I came rather late into Sid's life. It wasn't until sometime in the late 80s when I joined the board of the Adirondack Museum that I first encountered Sid, who was already a valued board member of long standing. His interests were primarily boats and the environment, and mine was 19th century painting. But we enjoyed each other's company and soon found ourselves serving together on the museum's long-range planning committee. About the same time, I had come to the conclusion that I should look for an Adirondack guideboat of my own. I was a member of the Au Sable Club in the Adirondacks, which had an array of guideboats available to rent, but generations of members had left them somewhat the worse for wear, and I'd hoped to find something less battered. As an aside, one of my most pronounced childhood memories is sailing, I don't know what the word would be, through the night at the Au Sable Club in one of these battered old boats, terrified out of my mind. And it did hit a rock, too, while we were there. Do you guys remember this? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So good on you, John. Get your own boat. No better advisor for that effort than Sid, who brought his considerable knowledge and a welcome enthusiasm to bear in support of my quest. I remember in particular a time when he and Patsy were staying with me in Keene Valley, and a vintage boat built by a known maker in the first decade of the last century was advertised for sale in Saranac Lake. Sid and I immediately took off to have a look. As many of you know, an Adirondack guideboat is a wooden boat of supremely elegant design and craftsmanship. This particular example showed its age, but had all those characteristics. However, the owner, seeking to solve the perpetual problem of the oarsmen in rowing boats of any kind, namely facing backwards, had fitted it out with a chrome rear-view mirror. I kind of like that. It looked like it had just been retrieved from a 1950s Oldsmobile, and it destroyed the appeal completely. With Sid's strong encouragement, I took a pass. It was also at the same time that I witnessed firsthand Sid's astonishing diligence in researching the Gerster diaries. Arpad Gerster was an Hungarian-born, European-trained doctor who came to New York in the 1870s and became a renowned surgeon at Mount Sinai. A man of immense knowledge and culture, he was also an avid sportsman and outdoorsman who owned a camp on Racket Lake. He kept a wonderfully readable diary of his activities there, including accomplished sketches of his camp and other rustic scenes. Sid had been commissioned by the founder of the Adirondack Museum, who knew Gerster's descendants, to transcribe and edit the diaries. Sid was relentless over many years in tracking down and elucidating each obscure reference in the diaries. In the end, the edited diaries were published in 2 handsome volumes by the museum. Sometime after that, Sid proposed that Janice and I join him in Patsy on a trip to Kenya, being organized by the super efficient Tansy for the Rainforest Alliance, which she then led. We were wise and fortunate enough to accept, which resulted in a memorable experience of flower farms, tea plantations, and of course animals. Through it all, Sid's unfailing good spirits and enthusiasm and exceptional energy carried us along. At the tea plantation, we had large yellow baskets strapped to our backs to receive the tenderest tea leaves we had been taught to pluck, and I believe Sid may have plucked the most. Another time, a group of Maasai warriors were produced for our entertainment that included a sort of dance that involved the men jumping straight up. When asked to try our hands, or more literally our legs, at that activity, Sid jumped with the best of them. In short, it was a great adventure, all the more enjoyable because of the spirit brought to the whole enterprise by Sid and Patsy. When all is said and done, Sid never gave up his devotion to prodding the museum directors, of which he had seen 5 come and go, and staff to do more to display the boat collection and to draw attention to environmental issues. In January of this year, shortly before Sid passed on, the board of the museum, wanting to recognize Sid's many contributions to the museum, adopted a resolution which I would like to conclude by reading. Before doing that, I would like simply to say that Sid was a remarkable spirit, a wonderful friend, and like all of you, I will miss him a great deal. So, thank you, John. He's either listening to this or we'll hear it later, so thank you so much, John. So this is the resolution that he mentioned. Some of you have seen this, but if not, you'll hear it now. One thing I was saying to my wife beforehand, it's like, these resolutions this is very cool. It's a very cool thing. It's not prose. It's a big list of very big run-on sentences. It's impossible to read audibly, but we're all friends and family here, so it's okay. Train wrecks are allowed. Adirondack Experience, the Museum on Blue Mountain Lake. Resolution of thanks and deep appreciation for Sidney S. Whelan, Jr. Yeah, I'm the third. He was the second. Adopted by the Adirondack Experience Board of Trustees. Whereas Sidney S. Whelan, Jr., universally known as Sid, served as a dedicated trustee of the Adirondack Museum, now renamed the Adirondack Experience, from July 31st, 1980 to July 26, 2003, contributing his boundless energy, his valuable insights, and unwavering commitment to the mission of our organization. Whereas Sid was elected as an honorary trustee on July 24th, 2004, recognizing his exceptional contributions and continued dedication to the Adirondack Experience as a trustee and member of innumerable committees. Whereas Sid's philanthropic spirit and generosity have left an indelible mark on the Adirondack Experience. Whereas Sid established the Adirondack Heritage Fund in 1985 with a donation to promote a better understanding of the cultural and natural heritage of the Adirondacks, which has grown over the years. Whereas Sid was instrumental in launching the Adirondack Experience's planned giving program in 1994 and 1995, coining the name Source Society in collaboration with a fellow trustee. Whereas at the request of founder Harold Hochschild, Sid retrieved the Adirondack diaries of Arpad Gerster, an early Racket Lake camp owner, transcribed them, conducted years of meticulous research into their text, and procured their publication in 2 handsome volumes for the museum. Whereas Sid was the driving force behind the decision to build the 26,000 square foot collection, study, and storage center, which opened in 2000 and protects the Adirondack Experience's irreplaceable collections of Adirondack artifacts. Whereas Sid played a pivotal role in creating the Boat Builder in Residence program in 2008 and helped to raise an endowment to support the program. Whereas Sid's notable gifts have significantly enriched our programs and initiatives, including support for the Worth Publication Fund, the Guideboat Photogrammetry Project, the Guideboat Builder in Residence program, the Henry Fair Photo Exhibit, Ed Kenz's Guided Nature Hikes, a video on the subject of the logging industry, Stephen Shulovik's Guidebook Boat, and an emergency generator for the Collection Storage and Study Center. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Adirondack Experience expresses its heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to Sidney S. Whelan, Jr. for his unwavering dedication, outstanding leadership, and extraordinary generosity over the years, which have greatly enhanced our ability to fulfill our mission of preserving and sharing the history and heritage of the Adirondacks. Be it further resolved that this resolution of thanks and deep appreciation be formally recorded in the records of the Adirondack Experience and shared with Sid as a testament to our profound gratitude and admiration for his enduring contributions. Unanimously adopted this 25th day of January 2024. Nancy Reardon, Chair, Board of Trustees.
Well, friends, whereas Sid Whelan wanted us to sing together, therefore be it resolved that we shall rise and join in singing hymn number 401, Amazing Grace. Therefore be it resolved, be seated.
my name is Genevieve. Sydney is my grandfather, and I call him Papa, so that's what you'll be hearing. If you don't know who that is, that's him. So, to know Papa as my grandfather is one of the greatest blessings I could have, because from a very early age, I could tell how much life he'd lived. You can tell in his actions and his stories and his words that he's experienced so much and was willing to share every detail with you. I think it's important to understand how much life your grandparents have lived, because due to that fact, you take their word and their actions very seriously, and you pay very close attention. And one of my greatest takeaways from Papa is that his two favorite things in life were completely free, and he didn't need to love them as much as he did, but he loved the earth and he loved his family very much. And I think one of my greatest takeaways from him is that family is truly what keeps you afloat in the worst of times and the best of times. And holding them very close to your heart ensures that it just keeps us all immortal in a way, I think, because he lives on in a very powerful way to me. Another thing I've noticed in observing Papa is his absolute appreciation for the simple pleasures in life. I think a lot of what he taught me wasn't even verbalized, it was just shown through how he cared for people and for this earth. I think that nowadays it's hard to pause, because life feels a little chaotic, but it's hard to pause and appreciate the things you have that are free and that you didn't essentially work for, but were just given to you. And I think that he really taught me to cherish those things most in life. I love Papa so much. And I miss the face he'd make whenever you'd tell him any fact about your life. It could be the most simple, boring anecdote. And he would do this thing and he'd be like, "That's so neat." And it just made you feel really good inside. And I just hope that I can be a fraction of Papa when I'm a grandparent. So I really thank everyone for being here, because he would love this so much. And I know he's here watching us, and he's eating his rhubarb and his little canned goods. And I also wanted to tell Papa that I caught 2 fish last week, and my fishing line broke, and I fixed it myself. And he never taught me that, but I think that in observing him all these years, I just knew how to do it. I truly believe it. So I just wanted to say that, Papa, I love you more than anything, and thank you for teaching me to absolutely adore the most simplest pleasures in life. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle. I'm the youngest cousin and the baby. So I just wanted to start by saying thank you for being here today. So I just wanted to say something short and pay tribute to my grandfather, Papa. Sorry, bear with me, I'm a very emotional person. Papa was one of the most sweet and intelligent people I had the pleasure of knowing. So many of my best skills and qualities, such as writing a great letter, I really do attribute to him. Throughout my life, I've been inspired and influenced by the ways that Papa chose to live his life. First and most important, he was a strong-willed family man, which meant we would drop everything for a family reunion in Danby, or for a combination of no less than 3 birthdays for a Whelan get-together. Of course, now I don't know anyone's birthday, but arguably, and more importantly, I know how important it is to find any reason to get together with the people who love you. Secondly, I have a special and often surprising connection to nature and the outdoors. My college friends regard me as the most New York City type of person ever, and are often surprised to discover my deep love for nature. They then soon discover I find extreme comfort in watching birds in the yard and walking through tall grass and slowing down, which are things I picked up from Papa. It's hard to put into words how important Papa was to me. I still find myself thinking I'll head up to Connecticut to see him soon. But I just feel lucky to know all the many ways he's still here with me. I see him in birds chatting, and I hear him in my father's voice and his laugh. And now, whenever people mention a great penmanship or a guide boat, or sitting at the head of the table, or rye bread and tin fish, or France, or double chocolate cake with chocolate frosting, which I don't even like. My most memorable trip to Boston with my sister in 8th grade, and the importance of family, all think of Papa. And I feel lucky to have been shaped by him. And I miss him, and I know he misses me too. So, thank you.
I just want to say, my grandfather left us a lot of amazing things, and I think one of the biggest gifts was Patsy. I'm just so grateful that we have you in our family, have you with us. Yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna cry. A few summers ago, my grandfather asked me to help him strip and revarnish his beloved guide boat. As I'm sure many of you can attest, he was a really great teacher. Laura talked about this a little bit. He showed me how to drive stick with minimal tears. He showed me how to harvest and cook rhubarb for his famous strawberry rhubarb compote, how to set up a tent, how to dip oyster crackers in soup, how to worry far too much about things you can't change. I think this is considering the facts. I think that's what that is. How to cast a fishing rod, how to truly be in the New York City that is a real walking city, how to use an axe, how to eat tin fishes, how to age so elegantly, how to show up for family even when it's really hard, and of course how to strip and revarnish this small wooden rowing boat that he loved so much. There is an art to it, tapering sandpaper grits. You hold the brush a certain way. There's a technique for how and when to apply the varnish. He explained all of this very clearly and kindly. He demonstrated each step and then worked with me, offered pointers. He worked so slowly, so meticulously. He never cut a corner. It was pretty excruciating, the care he took. But it took days. And I was really, 5 minutes in, I was sure I was gonna get bored or frustrated and sort of wish I were off writing songs or running around the fields in Danby. But we settled into this rhythm of working together, and I realized what it was that he was really teaching me, which was how to be in process, how to be truly thoughtful about what we were doing and how we were doing it, how to not rush through life. He was so completely present in these moments, it felt like a small devotion. I was really proud of the final product. The guidebook looked beautiful, but the prize was really this sense of peace, this sense of total and complete there-ness in that moment. It was a kind of commitment he taught me to really being in the middle place between starting and finishing something, to actually be present, which was really how I experienced my grandfather, and I think maybe how a lot of people experienced him, as someone who tried and often succeeded in practicing a profound, twinkling, magical, grounded presence with his loved ones and with the world around him. This is, of course, when he wasn't distracted by fretting about someone or something he loved, considering the facts. But it's his big lesson, I think, for me anyway, to really be here in the hard process of living, here in the process of making a life, making things a little bit
better for others, making good. Thanks.
I'd like to preface our prayer of gratitude for Sid's life with an excerpt from a poem by Maya Angelou. When great souls die, after a period peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. Would you join me in prayer, first in a few moments of silence, when I would ask that you hold in your mind a memory you have of Sid, offering your own silent prayer, and then I will join us together in prayer. First, silence. God of love and mercy, we are gathered here this day because our loss is great. Sid Whelan was right here beside us for a time, and he helped fill our lives with his grace. The place he occupied in our minds and hearts and souls feels empty without him. He was a source of wisdom, of strength, of nurture and compassion. He exuded a joy in living that was contagious and thrives among us even now. And while we knew that we couldn't hold him here any longer, we hated to let him go. But our hearts are full of gratitude for all that he taught us, all that he gave us, all the memories we hold dear. There was about Sid a gentle goodness and humility that belied his prowess and competence and vast experience guiding the work of nonprofits. We knew in him one who cared deeply and authentically about others, listening carefully to their stories and their trials, offering encouragement always, and sometimes in careful measure, some words of guiding wisdom. And so we now say to ourselves, because he was who he was, because he existed, we can be and be better. For his life calls to us to be and be better people ourselves. Sid was a man of dignity and integrity, a man of many talents and interests. He passed along to us his passion for the natural world and all its many treasures. He knew the streams where the trout could be found. He knew the peace of the early morning on a lake, gliding along in an Adirondack guide boat, making almost no disturbance on the silken water, taking note of the fishes and birds and the distant view of the mountains he loved. He knew the value of farmland and the importance of the trees and forests that surrounded the fields around the homestead he loved in Vermont. And he knew the importance of teaching succeeding generations to protect and value all that is not ours really to own, but is surely ours to guard and defend, to admire and appreciate. Sid knew that the natural world was a treasure, the bedrock foundation for all our futures, and the indispensable medicine for our souls. On this day, we hold up prayers of gratitude for all that Sid taught us about love, for Sid was a lover of people. He reveled in their stories and seized any chance to cheer them on. The memories of him at his place at the family dinner table, with his playful spirit and contagious smile, will help guide this family in the days to come. For he taught us that life's simplest pleasures are in fact its greatest gift. Good food, a lovely flower bed, the presence of those we love, a sunset reflected off the surface of water or disappearing beyond distant hills, a gathering of the generations who will move the world along. St. Paul tells us that faith, hope, and love abide, but the greatest of these is love. We thank you for the love Sid had for this family, for the constancy of his presence beside them in any time of need, for the gentle guidance he offered with such humility, for his openness to new ideas, and for the great pleasure he found in sharing in the stories of the younger generations, and for the optimism for this world that their very lives bear witness to. We thank you for the tender love that Sid and Patsy shared over these past decades, for the joy they brought to one another, for their shared love of the mysteries of the natural world, for their adventuresome spirits that led them to be explorers and seekers, celebrating life together. In the days to come, God of mercy, we ask that you would stand close beside Patsy, beside Tansy and Laura and Sydney, beside Laura Faye and Genevieve and Gabrielle and all those they love. Remind them of Sid's enduring love for each of them. Let them think of him when a glorious sunset lights up the western sky, or when the dogwood blooms again in spring, or when they hear the laughter of the family gathered around the large table at the family farm. For he is with them still, within them and around them all the time. Let their memory of his ready smile and melodious laugh encourage them to find some joy in each and every day. Let their memories of him call to them and to all of us to be and be better because he existed, because he was who he was. And from where he resides in our memories, from where he holds such a cherished place in our hearts, he calls to us to serve the world as best we can. We offer this prayer of gratitude in the name of one who may be called by many names, but who we know best as love and mercy and grace and peace and compassion. Amen. And now I invite you to stand and sing with us hymn number 427, My Life Flows On in Endless Song. We'll sing verses 1 and 2.
Before I offer these words of benediction, I want to make sure all of you know that these words of benediction, a poem written by John O'Donoghue. Thank you. It's called Beanacht, which means benediction. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. And when the canvas frays in the currach in the boat of your thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. And may the protection of the ancestors of whom Sidney Whelan is now one, may that protection be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. Friends, may you somehow come to feel that invisible